Yeah, hi everybody. I hope you can all hear me. So I'm Henri. I'm co-founder of OGContract, and for this first session today, we are gonna discuss smart contract versus cloud platforms. So it may sound original, but yeah, I can't wait to tell more about this. So let me share my screen and just confirm that everybody can see it. Share. Perfect. So you should see my screen from now on. Okay, so smart contracts versus cloud platform. Just to start, a few words about me. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of OGcontract.com. We pre-launched, but we're gonna announce many things quite soon. And I was a former chief innovation officer of a European cybersecurity vendor, and also made a lot of open source tools, including one quite popular for cloud, AWS, CLI called OLS. And my background is being a university teacher and academic researcher in semantics of programming languages in particular. And so let's get started. So when we hear about Web3, many people think about NFTs. So is Web3 just about NFTs? So of course, if you say this, many people would say, no, Web3 is also about DeFi and chains, etc. Lots of different protocols which make Web3. So those are two very different use cases, DeFi, NFTs, and the key question that we can ask is there anything else? Is there more than DeFi and NFTs? And the key answer to that is, and this will be the topic of this talk, is yes, a lot of things. In fact, we can go much, much beyond just NFTs and DeFi. And we are going to see, in fact, decentralized apps or dApps as, let's say, a general computing platform. And to do this, let's start with what Vitalik said early on in 2014. So he was still very young and did something of a marvel document called the Ethereum white paper, which ignited the whole smart contracts platforms and the whole smart contracts blockchains like Ethereum, of course, and all the others that followed. If we listen to his words, he basically says the intent of Ethereum is to allow developers to create arbitrary consensus-based application, which means basically any application that will be scalable, not a small feat, standardized, feature complete, and easy to develop, and interoperable. Each of these claims independently is quite extraordinary, but put them all together and it's really, really a revolution. And this was claimed in 2014, so before it launched. And now in 2022, we'll see that in fact all these promises are true. He says a bit more. He says, we do this by building the ultimate abstract foundational layer, a blockchain with a built-in Turing-complete programming language. So if you're not familiar with computer science, Turing-complete means you can do anything without it. You can express any program you can think of. So you can do, in fact, any decentralized apps with smart contracts. And this is exactly the promise that became true. So if we think of it, now we have blockchains which provide general storage and general compute. They are decentralized and they're open. And if you look at what cloud platforms have been doing for 15 years now, mostly And for instance, what AWS does with EC2 and S3 is storage and compute. So how do they compare? Blockchains are decentralized and open. So basically, any smart contract can open with each other on the same blockchain. So can be Ethereum. I see the comments say, oh, he's a fan of ETH. ETH. It's the same for Solana, for instance, and it's the same for Tezos. It's the same for all the blockchains which have smart contracts. And the cloud platforms, they are centralized. So that's a much difference, but they're efficient. So let's look a bit at the architecture of those cloud platforms to compare them. So they are centralized, we say that. They are efficient, but they're not very easy to build. In fact, there's a joke that cloud computing started very simple, but S3 was even meant to be simple storage service. But as time went by, everything that was simple became complex. The developers added layers and layers of abstraction, including, for instance, Kubernetes to manage containers. And when you start bringing all of that layers of technologies, then a single developer or a single DevOps is not able anymore to do and publish and maintain a cloud infrastructure when it goes more complex by himself. So it's centralized, which is a problem in several cases, which we'll see. It's efficient. Okay, that's granted, but it's not easy. So if you think about cloud cost and complexity, basically the cloud spend is a major problem. And you'll see that, for instance, organizations spend billions more, in fact, on cloud spend that they should have, just because in the cloud you manage a lot of your resources, sometimes automatically, but sometimes you still have to check that you're using the database for which you pay very high monthly fees, especially when you distribute, for instance, your database. Often you need 9 servers minimum or 18 servers minimum to have redundancy of your data over multiple regions, something which we'll see blockchains do natively for free. And the complexity is also the biggest problem. So I've worked with a lot of large organizations and smaller ones, and to be honest, they're completely lost sometimes with their cloud infrastructure. They don't even know the services who are running. They have to buy extra software to just know what's running. And sometimes people wonder if the costs are worth the benefits. And there's one more major problem. It's the SecOps, so the security of the runtime in the cloud. And then you'll see organizations, and that was my previous job, who rely on tons of extra software, for instance, to manage the access of sysadmins, to monitor everything what is being done at multiple levels, just to be sure. Because what happens in the end is you have, let's say, like a machine which is running in the cloud, but you don't have just one. Often you have hundreds of machines running in the cloud. And the developers can connect to these machines to, let's say, change the way a service is run. But if the developers can go into this machine, maybe some attackers can do the same. And so it becomes your permanent job, in fact, to manage that your cloud servers are running. And we'll see that, in fact, there will be a whole new ecosystem of dApps, decentralized apps, that will replace SaaS and cloud applications that we know today. And it will be kind of the same transition that we saw from on-prem, the traditional legacy apps that went to the cloud. And from the cloud, we're going to move to Web3. And for some reasons that we'll just see right now. Something which is quite an original take that I wanted to share with you tonight is, or today for many of you, is that Web3 smart contracts are always up services. And it's not only ETH, ETH was the first one, so it's natural to speak of ETH first. And I really, in any cases, if in the future there will be better blockchain, which we'll see, I'm not sure. ETH is also a very good technology which is evolving. One of the core features of that is that these are always up services. So basically, the smart contracts, they're stored and they're run directly on the blockchain nodes, and they're up, the nodes are up, and they are maintained by the decentralized node operators, which have incentives, in fact, to keep the node running, and it is their job to keep the nodes running and secure. When you run dApps, it's not your job. And we'll see it makes a major, major difference. So these Web3 smart contracts, these blockchains, they ensure trustless execution, which is a very important property. And the pay-per-use model, where there is no subscription fees. And this is also key. When you deploy a smart contract, it will be running today, will be running next month, will be running next year, and will be most probably running for many, many years to come. And you don't have, as a smart contract developer, anything to do for that. You don't have to pay a monthly fee, and we'll see that. That's a key difference, and that's a key advantage for blockchains over cloud services as well. So this is the perpetual availability. And also, you have the open interoperability with all the other smart contracts. If you want to call one other smart contract in the same blockchain, that's super, super easy, in fact, to do. And you don't have to ask permission or worse, to call the salespeople just to get an API key. So if we compare blockchains versus cloud, we'll see that the decentralized apps require no, in fact, ops administration. And the IT cost will be way lower, in fact, than what you have with the cloud tools and the cloud platforms like AWS, GCP, Azure, a lot of complex dev tools, and very, very high salaries. If you look at the DevOps salaries, they are the highest, even higher than the developer salaries. If you look at dApps from an end user point of view, they can be as well cheaper than SaaS. So let's talk about many blockchains like Polygon, like Solana, which have quite low gas fees. In fact, you pay, let's say, 1 cent to do a transaction. And let's suppose that you are one company with hundreds of employees, which will interact maybe 1,000 times with an app during a month. If you pay 1,000 times 1 cent, in fact, it's not much. It's probably less than what you pay for, let's say, $50 per month subscriptions for many business cloud services, or $100 per month per employee, which is common for, let's say, even CRM apps, etc., etc. So decentralized apps can be cheaper than SaaS. And the pay-per-action model as well makes that if someone is in vacation or someone is working less during a period, basically, you don't have to pay for that. You don't have to negotiate. You don't have to think about canceling your account. So it's another model which can be cheaper even for the end users. And it's always available. We mentioned this shortly, but that makes a huge difference. I know, and it's quite funny, I know some pretty large companies which had problems with their cloud infrastructure because the cloud, the credit card which was used to pay the cloud platform expired. And it's a complex company, so it was sent to the email of the finance department, but there was some turnover and the people at the finance department changed, so the email was in fact a dead mailbox. So basically all the missed invoice were received by no one. And in the end, in fact, they noticed when the whole services were shut down. And then everybody was, wow, what's happening? We hacked, we attacked, everything disappeared. And it was just unpaid bills. And sometimes, it's quite hard to manage. So all this, in fact, does not exist with blockchain, where you deploy once and then it's available forever. Then let's talk about another thing. about blockchains versus cloud. And it's about being trustless. Remember, we talked about trustless use cases, trustless execution. And there are many cases where a vil admin, or let's say an admin who's curious, like someone from a well-known TV show, which you may know, of course, for those who don't, the picture is from the TV show Silicon Valley. And that guy is an admin who basically likes to let's say, mixed with the data. And basically, there are lots of use cases like tender application, HR reviews, for which, in fact, you want to have a proof that the review happened, but you want to make sure that, in fact, you'll be the only one together with some people in the HR department to access it. And as well, you may want to have traceability about the access, and you want maybe each access to be logged in something, in a ledger you can verify. And this is exactly the kind of things that the blockchains, in fact, can provide. And any process where you need, in fact, to demonstrate that it's fair, in fact, blockchains win totally over cloud, because cloud, it's a black box, and you have to trust lots of people. You have to trust the cloud platform. You have to trust, most of the time, the developers of the software. You have to trust the admins of everything. And so this is a key argument, together with something which stands is the effective standardized security model. So granted, you need to write your smart contract without bugs, and this is left to a completely other topic and session. But once your smart contract has been well written, has been audited, and you're quite confident that your smart contract has no bug and is working as intended, then the whole infrastructure security is built in the blockchain smart contracts. So because of that, in fact, it's super easy, and you can just deploy your smart contract that you know is of high quality, and then you operate it flawlessly without any recurring cloud server-side SecOps. And that makes a huge difference. So those are really, really key arguments for porting a lot of applications which are today cloud or SaaS to blockchains. So there will be many, many new use cases which are yet to come, don't exist today most of the time, and will replace existing apps over time when blockchains go ahead. So if we look at exactly what changes between cloud services and smart contracts, there's one major difference. And this major difference is that the smart contracts need to be very optimized. And for instance, cloud services, they're often multi-tenant, they are configurable with tons of options, and you have more and more features added all the time. And basically, this is something that you can't do easily with smart contracts. Smart contracts must be lean, must be efficient, because they're distributed over so many nodes, like thousands and thousands of nodes, that to bear that, we need to have a very well-written, optimized smart contract. So to do that, in fact, most of the time, the contract will be single tenant. So let's say, for instance, that many of us use Calendly, and maybe you do too. So, for instance, Calendly could well be a smart contract DApp, decentralized app. But if we do this, there will probably not be one smart contract for Calendly, which everybody will reuse. Instead, there will be one open source template for this smart contract, which many organizations deploy independently, and which is the same smart contract, but deployed many times. So that, in fact, we don't have to let's say, manage within the smart contract the different organizations. If we do that, it's the same smart contract, but deployed with multiple owners, and this will reduce the admin complexity a lot. As well, all the configuration should be built in. And if you want different configurations, let's say that you want to have calendars which are individual or calendars which are team based, that would be two different smart contracts. And you would use one smart contract for individual meeting bookings and one for team meetings. And basically, this leads us to libraries of smart contracts, which are templates of smart contracts and which will be more and more frequent in the years to come. And there are lots of projects which are working on building these libraries of smart contract templates. So this is one key change, in fact, between cloud services and smart contracts. We need to be much more lean. And there's another change, and this change is related to front-end interactions. The front-end code is much more complex than API calls. So rather than APIs, when you build a front-end for Web3 dApps, you have to manage, in fact, the connection to the blockchain directly for your front-end app. And you need to manage the connections with the user wallet, which is the key, in fact, for each user to interact with the blockchains. And as well, and for instance, especially for Ethereum, but for instance, for Solana, which is a different smart contract blockchain, it's not much different. It's even more complex. Basically, we use ABIs, which are application binary interface, which are lower level. So most of the time, it's up to the front-end developers to manage the low-level encodings. And as well, you need to read data from blockchains. And to do that, in fact, you often have to either have your own blockchain nodes or read data through a node as a service provided by several people like Infura. And I know that Marwan was a speaker yesterday at the OG conference. And basically, or Alchemy, for instance. And so you need to manage, in fact, these data calls. And all of this makes a lot of asynchronous calls and data flows. And there are libraries to help, of course, like Ethers.js, which many projects use. And but still, there's a lot of events to manage. You must react to wallet connect, disconnect, account change, chain change, since there are multiple chains. And for many environments, I'm speaking mostly about EVMs, where there is Ethereum and many other layer 1 and layer 2s. And basically, all this is quite complex. So if we sum up, basically how we do decentralized apps in one slide. First, you need to have your smart contract. And let's say there are three ways to do it. Either you code your own smart contract, or you choose and deploy a contract from a template, or you use someone else already deployed contract and which you call through the interoperability of the blockchain, and which is the key of the openness of the blockchain. So when you have this, then you either code your own front end, or you use pre-made platforms like the one we're building called OGContract. And then the third step is to monitor use and analyze data. So let me tell you just a few words about front-end widgets, which is something which is not yet available, but we've been building for some time at OGContract. So basically, we help Web3 projects by bootstrapping the front end quite easily, and in fact, without a lot of coding, or without even no coding at all. And where you can generate widgets for smart contract, and then you can embed them into any website by just copy pasting an HTML snippet. So that's super easy versus building your own front end, your own platform. And honestly, both approaches are fine, because if you want a custom experience, you need to go through a full-fledged development. But if you want interfaces that you can insert quickly into existing apps, that will help to help. And I can share you one thing with this. We really want to have the ecosystem, and we'll make it available for free, in fact, for the projects. And so keep posted for the announcement when we get closer to launch. So here, just to sum up the key takeaways of this presentation, because we have 4 minutes left. So first, blockchain dApps can replace cloud services. Second, they can be easier to run than cloud services. And this is something which is still a contrarian idea, but I'm pretty convinced that we'll really hear more and more about this in the years to come. Third, even more contrarian, they even can be cheaper. 2 things to note. First, it's not suitable for fat apps. If you want to have large streams of data, lots of transactions with lots of data, maybe the technology is not here yet for you, because we count bytes again. And if some of you were programming in assembly, or you learned the assembly programming language, for instance, for demos, the demo scene, etc. So basically, we're back to this with blockchain. We count bytes again. And then, last thing, the front-end development can be quite tricky. And yeah, as I said, we're here to help. So yeah, thanks a lot. In fact, we'll save time for 2 minutes for maybe 1 or 2 questions. So thanks a lot, in fact, for attending the OG Expo. And thanks a lot, for OG for organizing it. And you can follow me on Twitter. That's I'm Henri__OK. And or you can follow OGContract. We'll announce many things from that account. So yeah, thanks a lot to everybody. And if there is one or 2 questions, we have 2 minutes for that.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Henri, for the amazing speech. Right now on the floor, there are a few questions. I'm just going to pick a few. So one of them asks, I work for Microsoft, and in Microsoft, most still believe in Web 2 and talks of Web 3. Depends on the company. How do you suggest for big companies to immerse their employees in Web 3?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I know several people, in fact, who work at the FANG and who are, in fact, working with Web3. So my take is that all these big existing corporations in the software and the cloud services, they're already, in fact, investigating and building in Web3. It would just be, let's say, a progressive movement where we go from just a tiny bit of the company doing it to larger parts, and then everybody. It's been the same for every revolution. So you are at Microsoft, and I discussed some years ago with people who went very early at Microsoft, and they told me, in fact, how internet came in. And when internet came in fact, there were just a few people at Microsoft dealing with internet. And in particular, for instance, the teams that built IE very early on, and where at the time where most of the company, in fact, was away from internet. And when it came, in fact, then the whole company switched to internet. And my guess is that it will be the same for blockchain technology, because the technology, I'm not speaking about the project, the tokens, etc. Just the technology of blockchain is completely awesome. It's a paradigm shift on how we compute at scale with new properties, like I tried to explain on this talk.
Thank you for the detailed explanation. Next questions, we have, what is the most essential language for Web3 application? Solidity?
Yes. Right now, if you look at the percentages, I think that 85 or between even 85 and 90% of the smart contracts are written in Solidity. There are other languages, including for Ethereum and the EVM blockchains. For instance, Viper is getting a lot of talks. Even Vitalik tweeted about Viper not long ago. And of course, for Solana, for instance, it's Rust. And for Tezos, it's Michelin. And for other blockchains, they can have other languages. But right now, Solidity is really the JavaScript of smart contracts. So it's still the one to follow, because and to learn, because there are more tutorials for it and more resources than all the others.
All right. Thank you. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. So the remaining questions are in the Q&A sections, Henry. You can answer them all. So due to time constraint, yeah. But anyway, thanks for the good speech. I mean, I hope you guys actually learn a thing or two, the difference between smart contracts and versus cloud platforms. Thank you, Henry, once again. Pleasure having you here with us.
Yeah, thanks a lot. The pleasure was mine. And yes, see you. Bye-bye. Thanks a lot.
Bye. Thanks. All right, guys. I think that was an amazing speech by Henry, the CEO of OK Contract. Right up next, have you guys heard of Fireworks Solutions International? So the next speaker, he's the co-founder and the director of APEC. So Fireworks Solutions International is established in the year of 2003. They are an award-winning technology design and innovation firm that specialize in mobility and in internet-based business solutions. They have over 100 digital advertising and marketing campaigns, 10 years of branding and communication experience, pioneer and leader smart mobile solutions, 10 years of web solution experience, developed over 50 mobile apps and over 500 standard web design and solutions. I mean, without ado, Kyle, I would like to welcome KL Lee, the co-founder, director of APEC Fireworks Solutions International. Today, he will be speaking and teaching about new retails and rewards in Web3. KL Lee, please.